Christian missionaries have been using another strategy to defend the Bible. By mocking Islam and the Prophet of Islam or the religion of Islam, this strategy is also not working because the Bible still remains corrupt. Do not take the message of love to someone by hating on people they love.
Your prophet didn't want us making fun of him. He shouldn't have had sex with a 9-year-old girl. He shouldn't have walked around covered in semen. He shouldn't have had his followers sucking on each other's fingers. He shouldn't have allowed his followers to hire prostitutes. He shouldn't have taken the wife of his own adopted son. Shouldn't have delivered the satanic verses. Shouldn't have gone around saying that he's a victim of a magic spell that gives him delusional thoughts. He shouldn't have done basically anything that he did if he didn't want us making fun of him. How are we supposed to ignore all the hilarious stuff that he did and just keep quiet about that? All of that aside, did Adnan just once again become an apostate? Adnan became an apostate again?
Yes.
Oh, I have got to hear this. How did Adnan just apostatize again?
I just want to glorify Jesus Christ for raising people like you to expose the truth, because Adnan, your career is over, your religion is over, you decimated Muhammad. Why? Let me show you how Muhammad treated unbelievers. I'm going to quote Muhammad and Abu Bakr as examples from the sources written by Muslims, not Jews or Christians. Okay, this comes from Mishkat al-Masabi. I'm reading the English translation, and it's page 1021, volume 2. Pay attention, folks, what Muhammad says. Ubay ibn Ka'b told that he heard Allah's messenger, it says God's messenger, but I prefer to say Allah, Allah's messenger say, if anyone proudly asserts his descent in the manner of this pre-Islamic people, tell him to bite his father's penis, and do not use a euphemism. Say it graphically. Insult that man. Tell him, go bite your father's penis, dude.
Hold on, Sam. Didn't these people love their fathers?
Of course they did.
And yet Adnan says that us criticizing Muhammad would be like, walking up to someone and trying to reach them and then talking about their moms. But Muhammad specifically orders his followers to talk about the people's dads and even to bite their penises? I can't believe that this actually came from the Prophet of Islam.
But can I show you what Muhammad's best friend, according to Sunnis, who became the first Caleb, said to the unbelievers? This comes from the English translation of the History of Al-Tabari, The Victory of Islam, volume 8, page 76. Then Urwa said, Muhammad, tell me, if you extirpate your tribesmen, have you ever heard of any of the Arabs who destroyed his own race before you? And if the contrary comes to pass, by God, by Allah, I see both prominent people and rabble who are likely to flee and leave you. Abu Bakr said...
Pause there, Sam, because I want people to understand how reasonable that was. So one of the pagans says to Muhammad, hey, Muhammad, look, you're going to war against us. There are only two possibilities here. Either you win or you lose. If you win, then you've exterminated your own people. Do you really want to go down in history as someone who exterminated his own people? So that's one possibility. The other possibility is you lose, in which case your followers will abandon you and they'll recognize they shouldn't be following you. Either way, this doesn't look good for you, man. So just stop attacking us. That's what he's saying. Seems like a very reasonable point. Now, Sam, show us the incredibly reasonable manner that Abu Bakr responded. Abu Bakr, who's one of the rightly guided caliphs in Islam, and surely he, too, is a pattern of conduct worthy of Muslim imitation.
Here is the standard that Muslims must follow, a standard that puts us Christians to shame. Abu Bakr said, go suck the clitoris of Allat. Repeat it again. Go suck the clitoris of Allat. And then it says Allat was the idol of Thaqif, which they used to worship. Would we flee and leave him? Now, I want to read this one source because it comes from Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab at-Tamimi. It comes from Mukhtasar Zad al-Ma'ad, the English translation, page 383. Guys, pay attention. And in the words of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq to Urwa, suck Allat's clitoris. There is permissibility of speaking plainly the name of the private parts if there's some benefit to be gained thereby, just as he, Muhammad, permitted a plain response to the one who made the claim of the Jahiliyyah by saying, bite your father's penis. And for every situation, there is a fitting saying.
Abu Bakr said, making fun of the pagans, and says, go suck Allat's clitoris. Now, Allat, did they love Allat? Did they love the pagan goddess?
They loved and adored Allat, Al-Uzza, Manat. They loved these goddesses.
And yet, Abu Bakr's response to a completely reasonable request and a completely reasonable and rational point by one of the pagans, his response is to say, in effect, go perform oral sex on your goddess. Right. And notice, Muhammad is saying, go bite your father's penis. Abu Bakr, go perform oral sex on your goddess. These are like the nastiest, most insulting ways you could possibly talk to someone. That's how Muhammad and his companions responded to the pagans. And yet we have Adnan Rashid here saying that's the wrong way to go about it. You'll never reach people like that. I, Adnan Rashid, have the true way to reach people, and I condemn anyone who would do it like that. And he still doesn't realize, Sam, according to chapter 4, verse 65 of the Quran, you can have no resistance against Muhammad's decisions. Well, Muhammad Muhammad has displayed in his life how you're supposed to respond. Surah 33 verse 21 says that Muhammad is the pattern of conduct, and Muhammad, the pattern of conduct, showed how you should react to people's false religious beliefs. And yet Adnan says, no, don't follow Muhammad. He's completely wicked and immoral. I reject Muhammad's decisions about how to do these things, and I still don't realize how many different ways I've become an apostate. What else do you have for us?
I gotta read this part because, folks, Muhammad didn't just insult unbelievers. The hadith, Sahih Muslim, I have an article on this. Folks, you need to listen to this, and by the grace of Jesus, make a clip, and David is going to make a clip out of this. Muhammad was such a nasty person. He would insult and curse his companions who loved him, but then Muhammad justified it. Let me read it. Okay, this is from Sahih Muslim, so you guys don't take my word for it. Sahih Muslim, number 6285. Even the subheading, guys, let me read the subheading. Chapter 23. He upon whom Allah's apostle invoked curse, whereas he in fact did not deserve it, it would be a source of reward and mercy for him. So let me read. Aisha reported that two persons visited Allah's messenger, and both of them talked about a thing of which I'm not aware, but that annoyed Muhammad, and he invoked curse upon them and hurled malediction. Not only did he curse them, Allah curse you, he insulted them. He cussed them out. And when they went out, I said, Allah's messenger, the good would reach everyone, but it would not reach these two. In other words, she's thinking he's a prophet. You just damned these poor souls. You cursed them and you cussed them out. He said, why so? I said, because you have invoked curse and hurled maledictions upon both of them. He said, don't you know that I have made a condition with my Lord, saying this, O Allah, I'm a human being, and that for a Muslim upon whom I invoke a curse or hurl malediction, make it a source of purity and reward. Guys, understand what Muhammad just did to justify his insults? I made a deal with Allah. Allah, if I hurl a malediction, I curse someone, I cuss him out, and I invoke your wrath on him, doesn't deserve it? Can you then turn that into blessing? In other words, Muhammad justifies his temper tantrums by saying, hey, don't worry about it. David, if I cuss you out, it's going to be a blessing. So let me cuss you out. Let me wish death on you. Let me wish hell on you and your children. And the more I do, the greater the blessing. Gee, can you cuss me out some more?
Wait a minute. What do you think about this video? Is their debate factual? Are there lies in what they are saying, or are they saying the truth? What do you think? What are your opinions? Drop them down in the comment section. Let's hear your own part.
But here's the worst one. In the hadith, Sahih Muslim, number 6297. A young orphan girl, Muhammad wished early death on her, and she started weeping bitterly. Let me read it, because it's worth reading. Sahih Muslim, number 6297. Anas bin Malik reported that there was an orphan girl, poor girl. Folks, don't forget, Muhammad was supposed to be an orphan. If anyone should have sympathized with this poor girl, it should have been him, because he was orphan, right? There was an orphan girl with Sulaym, who was the mother of Anas. Allah's messenger saw that orphan girl and said, oh, it is you? You have grown young. Now, what a stupid man. You tell me to respect this man? Notice what he says to his orphan girl. May you not advance in years. May you, in other words, may you not get older. May you die. That slave girl returned to Sulaym weeping. Sulaym said, oh daughter, what is the matter with you? She said, Allah's apostle has invoked curse upon me that I should not grow in age, and thus I would never grow in age, or she said, in my length of life. Sulaym went out wrapping her headdress hurriedly until she met Allah's messenger. He said to her, Sulaym, what is the matter with you? She said, Allah's apostle, you invoke curse upon my orphan girl. He said, Sulaym, what is that? She said, she, the girl, states, you have cursed her, saying that she might not grow in age or grow in life. Allah's messenger smiled. Surprise, Sulaym. Allah's messenger smiled and then said, Sulaym, don't you know that I've made this term with my Lord? And the term with my Lord is that I said to him, I'm a human being and I am pleased just as a human being is pleased, and I lose my temper just as a human being loses temper. So for any person from among my ummah whom I curse and he in no way deserves it, let that, O Lord, be a source of purification and purity and nearness to Allah on the day of resurrection. So David, I'm not going to curse you. I'm going to insult your wife and your kids, and you better love it, because I made a deal with my Lord. If I say you are a wicked, ugly-looking kafir, may you die before the next year, that's going to be a blessing, brother. So say, thank me, David.
Maybe the same applies to Allah, so that when he's calling Jews and Christians the worst of creatures in Surah 98 verse 6, it's actually praising us, right? But once again, Adnan has condemned his own God, his own prophet, never realizes, his own prophet's companions, he never ever realizes it. Why? Because Islam is just built upon this foundation of hypocrisy, where we get to do whatever we want, but you have to obey all these rules that we would never dream of applying to ourselves or our prophet. Adnan, that time is over. We're holding you to the standard of your prophet, whom you've just condemned. We're holding you to the standard of your God, whom you've just condemned. We're holding you to the standard of your prophet's companions, whom you've just condemned. You apostatize every single video you post. You apostatize over and over and over again. Our job is simply to point it out and watch your religion self-destruct.
Glory to Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who will take Muslims captive for his glory, for their salvation. Be magnified, Lord Jesus. Hallelujah.
We do not believe that Lot slept with his daughters. We do not believe that Judah had incest with his daughter-in-law. We do not believe that David was an immoral man. We do not believe that Moses would command the killing of innocent women and children. We do not believe that prophets like Samuel would do anything like that. For example, in the first book of Samuel, chapter 15, verse 3, there is an indication of a genocide. There is a command to commit genocide. We do not believe these are parts of God's revelation, let alone the Torah. So the Torah of Moses once upon a time existed, and the Quran confirms some of those parts in the Quranic text itself.
Chapter 2 of the Quran, verses 246 to 252. Chapter 5, verses 20 to 26. Confirms, don't take my word for it. Go and read the verses. David, I know you know this. Go read them. It recounts the Old Testament injunctions given to Moses, Joshua, David to strike down, to smite the Canaanites, the Amalekites. Though it doesn't mention the groups by name because Muhammad didn't know. In fact, Muhammad was so confused, or the author of the Quran was so confused. Did you know, David, that Saul's name is Talut in order to make it rhyme with Goliath, Jalut, Talut and Jalut? And did you know in chapter 5, verses 20 to 26, it recounts Moses telling the Israelites, go and fight. And the Israelites say, no, you and your God go fight those giants. They're too big. And Allah condemning them. So if these Old Testament wars are genocide, you just buried Allah and Muhammad in the pit of hell, because Muhammad said these were just wars sanctioned by Allah. And by the way, I don't grant his description of the Old Testament, and I don't grant his misinterpretation of chapter 31, verses 17, 18. So again, I'm just saying, for argument's sake, the Quran not only does it reject Genesis, it confirms the stories found in the Pentateuch, as well as in the historical books about these holy expeditions ordered by, according to Muhammad, his own God. Sahih Bukhari, volume 4, number 353. This is the end of Adnan Rashid's career as a Muslim apologist. If he's honest to God, he needs to turn to Jesus Christ, because his war is against Allah and his messenger. The prophet said, a prophet amongst the prophets carried out a holy military expedition. The Muslim translation, not mine. So he said to his followers, anyone who has married a woman and wants to consummate the marriage and has not done so yet should not accompany me, nor should a man who has built a house but has not completed its roof, nor a man who has a sheep or she camels and is waiting for the birth of their young ones. So the prophet carried out the expedition, and when he reached the town at the time, or nearly at the time of the Asr prayer, he said to the son, O son, you are under Allah's order and I am under Allah's order. O Allah, stop it, the sun from setting. It was stopped till Allah made him victorious. Then he collected the booty and the fire came to burn it, but it did not burn it. So he said to his men, some of you have stolen something from the booty. So one man from every tribe should give me a pledge of allegiance by shaking hands with me. They did so, and the hand of the man got stuck over the hand of the prophet. Then the prophet said to the man, the theft has been committed by your people. So all the persons of your tribe should give me the pledge of allegiance by shaking hands with me. The hands of 2 or 3 men got stuck over the hand of their prophet. He said, you have committed the theft. Then they brought a head of gold like the head of a cow and put it there, and the fire came and consumed the booty. The prophet added, then Allah saw our weakness and disability, so he made booty legal for us. Guys, Muhammad and Bukhari just confirmed Deuteronomy chapter 20, verses 1 to 9. Just confirmed Joshua's expeditions in the book of Joshua against Ai and the king of Jerusalem, which you can find in Joshua chapter 7 and chapter 10. But David, last time I checked, weren't these the same injunctions to wipe out the Canaanites? And Muhammad just called that a holy expedition? Bye-bye, Adnan, your career is over.
Coming to the question David asked.
Finally,
So why is he asking for this statement? Because he knows the New Testament is corrupt, and the Quran does teach that the New Testament is corrupt. I'll give you one short example very quickly. I don't want to go on for too long. The Quran in chapter 4, verse 157 categorically states that Jesus was definitely not killed. He was not crucified. He was not killed. Gospels state that he was crucified and he was killed. In other words, the Quran is indirectly saying that the Gospels are corrupt. This statement is not unequivocal. It is not saying the New Testament is corrupt, but the outcome is...
Whoa. Did you catch that? He's given one verse so far, and this is all he's given ever, to show that the Quran is affirming the corruption of our text. But look at what he said. He just said, and by the way, this is not unequivocal. Watch this.
This statement is not unequivocal. It's
What?
not...
It's not unequivocal.
Wait a minute. What do you think about this video? Is their debate factual? Are there lies in what they are saying, or are they saying the truth? What do you think? What are your opinions? Drop them down in the comment section. Let's hear your own part.
Notice I lay down the challenge, guys. Give me one unequivocal verse in the Quran saying that the gospel has been corrupted. Every Muslim, I mean, you're talking hundreds of Muslims have sent me this clip has sent me this video saying, aha, he refuted you and he showed you and answered you. And what does he say? David, you're right. Even this one, even the only one I'm quoting, doesn't show that isn't unequivocal. All right, but let's go ahead and read it.
In other words, the Quran is indirectly saying that the Gospels are corrupt. This statement is not unequivocal. It is not saying the New Testament is corrupt, but the outcome is that the New Testament is corrupt. And the Quran, in this particular verse, chapter 4, verse 157, clearly states that they follow nothing but conjecture. Those who differ among themselves, those who differ about the matter of crucifixion among themselves, who are those who differ among themselves is the question. The gospel authors, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters out there, and I'm talking to Christians here, the gospel authors, none of them agree fully, none of them, not one of them fully agree as to the details of the matter of crucifixion.
Ooh, I don't know if I should give Adnan the benefit of the doubt, but I think I caught Adnan a little lie there. He says this verse is directed towards Christians, those who are those who only follow conjecture and are full of doubt. Sam, is it wrong, or is Allah responding to Jews here?
You just read the verses immediately preceding. It's talking about the Jews insulting Mary, the mother of Christ, and it says, and the verse begins, it's saying, and for they're boasting, we killed Jesus, the Messiah, the son of Mary, the apostle of Allah. Which Christian is going to say, hey, we killed the Messiah? These are Jews.
For that matter, which Jew is going to say, we killed the Messiah? We killed the Messiah, ladies and gentlemen.
100%. Yeah. And you know, it's ironic. Two things to highlight. Number one, last time I checked, folks, again, this is the best that Islam has to offer. This is their best, honestly. So he's arguing similarly to the way Shabir Ali would argue. He makes similar points. The Quran doesn't, Shabir Ali admits, the Quran doesn't come out black and white and say the Bible's corrupt, but it says things to imply the corruption of the Bible because it contradicts its core doctrines. That's even a Shabir Ali can argue. But coming back to this issue, you go and watch Adnan Rashid's debate with Samuel Green and others, especially James White, on the crucifixion. Here's Adnan wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to prove that this passage is implicitly saying the New Testament's corrupt because it denies the crucifixion. But then he debates Christians on the basis of the New Testament to show the New Testament says Jesus didn't die via crucifixion. So I'm a little baffled. Remember, I'm not a logician, David Wood. I'm not. You're the logician. How can you say that the Quran is implicitly testifying to the New Testament being corrupted and then debate Christians on the basis of the New Testament to show that the New Testament denies that Jesus died by crucifixion, but he was rescued per Psalm 91? I'm confused. You don't understand it?
I'm confused in all kinds of ways because notice, I mean, look, what he's saying here in effect is the Quran contradicts the Bible, therefore the Quran must be saying that the Bible's been corrupted. When our entire point is the author of the Quran has no clue what he's talking about. He doesn't know what's in the Bible. He affirms the Bible. He tells us to judge by the Bible. He tells us that we have no ground to stand upon if we do not stand upon the Bible. That's what he tells us over and over again. He says no one can change his words. Adnan doesn't refute any of that, not one word of it. We ask him for, can you show us one verse that talks about the corruption of our text in your book that's filled with nothing but affirmation of our text? And he says, well, the Quran must be saying it's corrupt because this contradicts our book. Great, you've just given us the other arm of the Islamic dilemma, right? We need 2 points to affirm the Islamic dilemma. 1, the Quran affirms the inspiration, preservation, authority of the gospel, and 2, the Quran contradicts the gospel, right? We say, hey, look, the Quran, we tell Muslims, hey, your Quran affirms our book, and then they change the subject to, but the Quran contradicts the Bible. We know that. We are defending that. So you're simply agreeing with us over and over and over again. We make these claims. They don't refute the claims, and then they agree with other things we're saying that destroy their religion. This is amazing stuff, man.
Yeah, and the second point I want to add, guys, understand what he said. We follow nothing but conjecture regarding Jesus' crucifixion. Now, this now ends up proving the Quran is corrupted and that the Quran has been dismembered, as chapter 15, verses 90-91 states. Christians, follow the logic. We follow nothing but conjecture when it comes to Jesus being killed by crucifixion. But last time I checked, there is no unanimity in the Muslim sources regarding what chapter 4, verse 157 means precisely. Now, let me qualify what I'm saying there. You will find that the earliest tradition, one that is attributed to Ibn Abbas, that it was one of Jesus's disciples that was made to look like Jesus, and he died on the cross. But then others disagreed, saying, no, it was probably Tatawus, or it was probably Judas. And then now you have Muslims like Shabir Ali saying, no, the Quran doesn't say that someone was made to look like Jesus and they killed that lookalike in the place of Jesus. In reality, what it's saying saying is Jesus wasn't killed by the cross, though he was on the cross and he swooned. The apparent death theory that he swooned on the cross. So they thought he died. That's how Allah made it appear to them. They thought he died, but he actually passed out. He swooned, and then Allah miraculously resuscitated him while he was in the tomb after being beaten to a bloody pulp, whipped to the point of death, doesn't die, but swoons, and then somehow comes out of the grave fully conscious, because that's a miracle of Allah. So who's following conjecture? The Muslims. Why? Because they can't make heads or tails out of what this passage is saying exactly. And this is the passage that Adnan wants to use to try to prove our New Testament's corrupt. If anything, it now backfires Adnan. It proves your Quran is corrupt, because to this day, you guys can't figure out the precise meaning of the passage that says that they neither killed him nor crucified him, but it so appeared unto them. And you can't even agree. What does that mean? It so appeared unto them. And surprise, surprise, if you want to take the view that Allah made it look like Jesus died, then how can the New Testament be corrupted when they're simply going along with the scheme of your God and saying Jesus did die because Allah made it appear to them as he did die? So why would you blame them for writing that down as part of the gospel that Allah sent down when Allah made it appear to them that he died and convinced them of that? Help me out, David.
Yeah, just imagine this, right? Allah, according to the Quran, makes this a great big illusion. He makes everyone think that they're seeing Jesus crucified on the cross, and they all see it. They see it with their own eyes. It's a public event. The Romans knew about it. The Jews knew about it. The Christians knew about it. Everyone knows because they see it. And 2,000 years worth of people affirm that Jesus died by crucifixion. His followers went out declaring that he died on the cross. And Adnan says, you see, the Quran points out that they follow nothing but conjecture. Ha! What do you mean? They saw it with their own eyes. If Adnan is right, then everything we see with our own eyes is nothing but conjecture. It's just, we have no basis for what we're saying other than the fact that we saw it with our own eyes. Do you imagine? I mean, what kind of God condemns what you see with your own eyes?
Right?
So notice this. This is Allah. So notice, ladies and gentlemen, first be aware of this, especially you Muslims, because when we say, where does the Quran affirm that the gospel has been corrupted? We get responses from Muslims. Oh, chapter 2, verse 79. Oh, chapter 2, verse 75. Oh, chapter 3. They give us verses. Why did Mufassal Islam, the Muslim apologist and YouTuber, not use those? Why did he not just quote those? This is Adnan Rashid in an 18 or 20 minute video or whatever it is. He's not using any of those verses that you guys think are about the corruption of the gospel, of the Christian scriptures. Why are these guys not using them? Because these guys know those verses don't mean that. They know that we are familiar with their commentaries and with the literary context and with other things the Quran say. They know that if they quote those, we will obliterate them. That's why they're not using them. That is why they're not using them. Guys, that should make you think. You Muslims who are watching, that should make you stop and think, wait a minute, all these verses that I think are about the corruption of the gospel, my apologists won't dare quoting those against Sam Shamoun. They won't dare. Maybe there's a reason, and maybe the reason is because there's no way they could defend it against Sam Shamoun. And they don't want to bring it up and give Sam Shamoun the opportunity to massacre the argument. They don't want to do that because they'd rather have you Muslims in the chat go around thinking that Surah 2 verse 79 refutes everything else the Quran says about the perfect preservation of our scriptures. They want you to think that, so they don't want to bring it up because they don't want us responding to it, right? And so, where does Adnan go? He goes to Surah 4, verse 157, knowing that even Muslims can't agree on what happened, knowing that Muslims have had all kinds of positions, and even in the earliest commentaries, they contradict each other all over the place on what this verse means. And then he says, you see, dumb Christians, they have nothing but conjecture to follow. Allah, who's responding to Jews who boast, but by the way, you Jews who are watching, you never say this, you never said, aha, yes, we killed Christ, the Messiah, we killed him. Right? Yep. You know you've never said that, but that's what Allah is accusing you of doing. But Allah responds to your imaginary boasts that you killed the Messiah by saying, you're wrong, you didn't kill him, you didn't crucify him, and you're following nothing but conjecture. Adnan takes that verse, which he knows is directed towards these supposed Jews who are boasting, and he says, what's Allah talking about here? He's talking about Christians and their scriptures. He's saying that their scriptures are contradictory, and he's condemning their scriptures, even though this has nothing to do with it. This is the best, Sam. This is the best. I put out my challenge on Tuesday. He had all the time in the world to formulate his perfect response. He spends 12 minutes of his video going over nothing that has anything to do with anything, just pretending that belief in the books is not one of the articles of faith without which you cannot be a Muslim, pretending that it's just inconsequential and irrelevant. And then when he finally gets to actually answering the question, he admits that I'm right. That's right. This is not unequivocal. And then he pretends that this verse is a response to Christians that is saying that our scriptures scriptures have been corrupted. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the one hand, we have Allah clearly, indisputably claiming that Christians have the inspired, preserved, authoritative word of God, but we're supposed to throw out all of those clear verses and go with a passage where Allah is responding to Jews and he says, haha, you think you crucified him? Well, you didn't. And we're supposed to take that as Allah giving secret coded language that is telling us that our scriptures have been corrupted, which completely contradicts everything he said about our scriptures. And this is the best that Islam has to offer on this issue.
Oh, but David, that was the surprise. Surprise, David.
Does the Quran endorse the Bible? Firstly, let me highlight as to why the Christian missionaries have lately used a strategy to defend the Bible. Now imagine if someone came to me and asked me whether the Quran is corrupt or not. Do you expect me to say the Bible is corrupt or the Bible confirms the Quran? Go to the Bible. The Bible confirms the Quran. The Bible confirms the Quran. Therefore, the Quran is not corrupt. Would that be a good defense of my scripture? No. I would pick up works of scholars and I would explain as to why the Quran is not corrupt. And that question will be addressed in another video, hopefully in the future. So that line of defense to use the Quran to defend the Bible is not working on Christians and Muslims.
All right, Sam.
Okay.
Notice what Adnan just said.
Yeah.
If you ask me whether my book is corrupt, I wouldn't start talking about your book and your revelations. I would only talk about my book and what scholars say about my book. That's the only defense I would give about my book. I wouldn't sit there and say, oh, but your book says this or your book says that. Now, Sam,
Yes.
I don't know which Quran he's reading, but when
100%.
people start, when the Jews and Christians kept telling Muhammad, why should we believe in you? Why should we believe in you? Why should we believe in your revelations? Didn't he always start going to our books, the books of the Jews and the books of the Christians, saying that he's confirming our books and therefore we're supposed to confirm his book in return, and that our books prophesy him and talk about his revelations? Isn't that what they say?
Yes, it's an embarrassment that a Muslim like Adnan would want us to steer away from what his prophet said and appeal to scholars, because folks, understand what Adnan did. He's putting the views of scholars above his own prophet, meaning scholars carry more weight and have more authority than his prophet. He just argued himself outside of Islam because he condemned Muhammad as being less reliable and authoritative than uninspired, fallible human scholars. But that's okay, because we do agree with him. Muhammad is a false prophet, but for other reasons. But now, according to his criterion, Muhammad did the very thing that he shouldn't have done if Muhammad were to apply the standards of Adnan that he's imposing on us. Where does the Quran say that Muhammad appealed to the scriptures of the Jews and Christians to confirm that he and his book are from the same God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Because we're making a clip out of this. I'm going to read it. I'm going to start in chapter 2, verses 40 to 44. So by the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, I'm just going to read. I'll let Muhammad silence Adnan and Muslims and put them in their place. Chapter 2, verses 40 to 44. Children of Israel, remember my blessing wherewith I blessed you, and fulfill my covenant, and I shall fulfill your covenant, and have awe of me, and believe in that I have sent down, and here's the reason why, confirming that which is with you. He's talking to his contemporaries. What you have, my book confirms it, so believe in me, and be not the first to disbelieve in it. Sell not my signs for a little price, and fear you me. Do not confound truth with vanity, falsehood, and do not conceal the truth wittingly. Side note, you can't conceal something you don't have. This assumes they have the truth, but they're trying to hide it. Continuing. And do not confound the truth with vanity, and do not conceal the truth wittingly, and perform the prayer, and pay the alms, and bow with those that bow. Will you bid others to piety, and forget yourselves while you read the book? Not parts that are intact and other parts corrupted. You read the book, which the Quran confirms. Do you not understand? Another one. Chapter 2, verse 89 and 91. Chapter 2, verse 89 and 91. And they say, our hearts are uncircumcised. Nay, but Allah or God has cursed them for their unbelief. Little will they believe. When there came to them a book from God, Allah, meaning the Quran, confirming what is with them, what you have right now, and they aforetimes prayed for victory over the unbelievers. When there came to them that they recognized, they disbelieved in it, and the curse of Allah is on the unbelievers. And when they were told, believe in what Allah has sent down, meaning the Quran, believe in it, they said, we believe in what was sent down on us. And they disbelieve in what is beyond that, yet it is the truth confirming what is with them. In other words, what's wrong with you? My Quran is saying your book is true. It's confirming it. It's absolutely the pure words of God. That should give you a reason to trust me in my book. Chapter 2, verse 101. When there has come to them a messenger from God, confirming what is with them, a party of them that were given the book reject the book behind their backs as though they knew it not. That's chapter 2, verse 101. Chapter 2, verse 121. Those to whom we have given the book and read it with the true reading. You can't read a book with the true reading if your book is corrupt, Adnan. They believe in it, and whoso disbelieves in it, they shall be the losers. Chapter 4, verse 47. Chapter 4, verse 47. You who have been given the book, believe in what we have sent down, confirming what is with you. Let me repeat it again. You have been given the book, meaning Jews and Christians. In the immediate context, it's the Jews. Believe in what has been sent down, meaning the Quran, confirming what is with you. And by the way, don't take my word for it. Go to any Arab lexicon and ask an Arabic speaker, what does sadaqah mean? Sadaqah means to confirm something as true, as reliable, as completely trustworthy. So what the Quran is saying is, the Quran confirms your book as being completely true, reliable, not a hint of anything corrupt in it. Now, David, I can read more, or do you want me to stop there?
I think that's enough, because we'll be going into more passages. But notice, Jews and Christians, you need to believe in my book because my book is confirming your book. And if you look at the claims about Surah 7 verse 157, that our book actually contains prophecies about Muhammad and so on, it's always, hey, I'm confirming the scriptures that you have, and your scriptures talk about me. But that is exactly the approach Adnan says it's ridiculous and absurd to take. He says, whatever you do, never point to another book as confirmation of your book, because that would be silly and absurd. Instead, you need to go to what scholars say and look at what they said, but never point to the other book as confirmation of your own book. What does his God do? What does his prophet do? Do they go to the scholars? Do they go to Bart Ehrman and so on? Of course not. He says your book says, and so Adnan once again has condemned his own God, has condemned his own prophet. He has apostatized, and you wonder why. And ladies and gentlemen, it's because his religion forces him to do this. If there was a way out of this, he would simply give the way out. He would simply say, no, our book doesn't affirm your book. This is a lie. Here are all the verses that show that your scriptures have been corrupted, and our book doesn't affirm your scriptures. He wouldn't sit here whining that we do what his God does, namely say, hey, stop objecting to my book because your book says it. The only difference is we're doing it for an entirely different reason. Allah in the Quran is affirming the inspiration and preservation and authority of our books, because he's claiming that he is confirming and that he revealed the books that we have with us. That's the point we're drawing to show that he actually destroyed his own religion. The way we're using it is to uncover this complete contradiction that is at the core of Islam and that is responsible for some very strange behavior that Muslims just cannot spot. They do not understand that it's a problem to run around saying, your book's corrupt, your book's corrupt, your book's corrupt, your book affirms my prophet, your book affirms my prophet, your book affirms my prophet. They do not understand how insane this sounds, right? They do not understand how insane it sounds to be saying that our books are corrupt and untrustworthy, while simultaneously appealing to our books to confirm their own prophet, and then telling us to believe in their revelation, a revelation which confirms the inspiration and the preservation and the authority of our scriptures that completely contradict their own revelations, right? They do not see the insanity of this. Why? Because their God and their prophet had absolutely no clue what they were talking about. That's the point we're trying to draw, and no amount of whining and contradicting your own God and your own prophet, Adnan, is going to stop us.
Amen.